Madam Speaker, but just after we took the break yesterday, I I had made up my mind I wasn't going to speak for very much longer, but an in, I got an interesting phone call, Madam Speaker, and I had just got through talking about the outsourcing of these tech jobs within these telecom companies overseas, and the net effect of that, which I thought was starting to diminish the quality of service and customer service that's offered. And as I walked out of this chamber, Madam Speaker, I got a phone call from Jamaica, and I looked at my phone. I wondered who that could be. So I answered, and I don't know if it was a joke or someone trying to make a point or just a coincidence, but the call was from a sales rep representing my telecom provider in Jamaica, asking me if I would be interested in an upgrade. I not wanting to have anyone prejudice my debate, my contribution here, Madam Speaker, I declined the upgrade and told him to call me back when we were finished with this motion. But I thought it was ironic. I had just got through talking about the outsourcing of tech jobs out of this country, and got a call reminding me of how real it is. And all the members of this honorable House, Madam Speaker, I think around the same time we're getting text messages and approaches from telecom providers along the same lines. Madam Speaker, before we took the break yesterday, I was talking about government becoming aware of a lot of these Caymanian technicians who have now been complaining to us that they've been displaced and being, I would say, moved out by some of these companies because of the outsourcing and because of the availability of cheap labor that the companies are employing in order to make their bottom line look better. But at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, it's about quality, and it's also about protecting your investment, and it's about making a profit, but it's also about giving the country the service it deserves and investing in the people of the country. It's about making sure that we invest in those who have the talent and the ability within the country. Those companies make their money here, and I think this is where the jobs should be. You know, I'll talk a little in a short time about some of the other concerns I have. But, you know, I did spend some time, Madam Speaker, talking to I think he's the president of ICCI, Mr. Dr. David Marshall, about what he sees as a growing issue in that tech jobs are not becoming prevalent among Caymanians. Now, we have many Caymanians who are examples of individuals who have the technical ability, who can be taught, who can learn this industry. And this is what we want to encourage. Tech jobs are growing at a phenomenal rate, and we are allowing these jobs to slip out of the grasp of our people in exchange for bringing in individuals who will do the same work but for less money. But I don't think they're offering the same quality. And we do have businesses, Madam Speaker, who complain and still complain about the lack of qualified technical Caymanians. I know I went through that when I had my own software design company. And it was difficult for me to find qualified Caymanian software engineers. The few that existed were immediately grabbed up by the bigger companies. I couldn't compete with that. But we're missing the boat as far as giving young Caymanians these opportunities. And as I tried as much as I could to assist young Caymanians in starting off on that pathway. But what we need is a more concerted effort. One or two individuals or small companies can't do it. We need to start from high school, which I know the high schools have implemented ICT programs, and my daughter is one of those students who I've seen come through that system, and I've seen that what is being offered there is a good quality foundation for someone who wants to move down the technical path. But we need to create a pipeline of Caymanians who are interested and engaged and trained in technology. because the world it's inevitable. It is coming. The, the jobs that we are preparing our young people for today don't exist yet. Many of those jobs are yet to be created. We have to keep pace with the developing world. We have to keep pace with the rapid expansion of technology. And we have to wholeheartedly ask these telecom providers and other tech companies to include our young people in their growth plan. It has to be a partnership, Madam Speaker. We can't go to continue down the road of just outsourcing whenever we need the expertise. That is what we've done for many years, and it's showing now, not just in this industry, but many other industries. We develop the industries, but we don't develop the people. By partnering with tech companies, Madam Speaker, and partnering with our two institutions of higher learning here, we can develop the local talent to support these industries. Caymanians, I think, I have worked in over 7 different countries in this world from a technology point of view, and I've yet to find many technical people who could better the Caymanians that I had working under me at the time. But I took the time to train them and to help them develop, and that is the approach we have to take. Dr. Marshall is very interested, actually, in pursuing this, and he's recognized quickly that in the same way we do it with financial services and tourism, we should be doing it in the tech sector as well. This quality pipeline of young technical individuals will help the industry develop and help it grow and keep pace. But we have to make sure that all the decision makers involved understand the importance of our own homegrown technical crop of young, enthusiastic, and engaged Caymanians. I do have, and I said I wouldn't speak for very much longer, but I know that these issues, the issues with quality, the issues with consumers not getting what they paid for are becoming widespread. And it's inevitably going to hurt other industries if it's not addressed now. This motion is very timely, Madam Speaker. As I said, I was discussing it with the minister recently, and I had the benefit of knowing that what his plans were. So I decided that we would obviously address it from the government side, but I do have to agree that this motion is timely because the complaints are widespread. You only have to look as far as Facebook on a daily basis, and you will see consumers complaining. I was one of them recently, engaged in in a conversation about this very topic with a number of any who were making complaints to me. I've already spoken, Madam Speaker, about the importance of this from an e-government perspective. I have been charged with responsibility for e-government, and I am a bit nervous about the present state of affairs, and I'm glad that the minister has also recognized the need to improve the quality and service levels. We can't go ahead with our e-government initiative and build it on a platform that will not support the level of transactions and interactions with the government that we anticipate, Madam Speaker. One other concern that I'm glad that is being addressed is the locking in of consumers with these fixed term contracts. And I know that a lot of the companies will actually go to the extreme of even offering free gifts and so forth if you sign up for a 2-year contract. This is anti-competitive as far as I'm concerned. It locks you in for a number of years and you're forced to keep paying for poor service. It is not something that we should be encouraging in this industry, and I'm glad to see that that is being addressed now. The recent 911 outage, Madam Speaker, highlighted another key issue for us. A service as important to us as 911 should not, under any circumstances, be hosted anywhere but within these islands. I believe that this outage, and I've seen some in the past, were direct result of a failure offshore, away from these shores, but we suffer the consequences. And heaven forbid that a major disaster happened during one of these outages and we're unable to communicate with 911. These companies, Madam Speaker, must be told that they must continue to develop their infrastructure, improve their service, but as much as possible, they need to have their infrastructure here. Relying on some other country where we have no control over the quality standards, the labor standards, the technical standards, is just unacceptable as far as I'm concerned, Madam Speaker. We also need to look into the issue of redundancy and ensure that the telecom providers are building redundancy into their systems. We all remember Hurricane Ivan, Madam Speaker, and we remember the weeks without communication. I remember not being able to check whether or not there was a hurricane coming behind Ivan. For many, many weeks, we didn't know what was out there unless you happen to have some sort of satellite communication. That was a scary scenario, and we never want to put the country through that again, especially when you consider the crippling effect it had on our financial services. I remember sitting in meetings with the then government, the then leader of government business, and his cabinet, and discussing how devastating that was to this country and the impact that could have had on our financial services. As a matter of fact, it did have some impact. I hope we've learned lessons from that experience, and I encourage the government, the minister, to continue down that road of ensuring the quality and the redundancy is in place. All critical infrastructure must be within these islands. My last major concern, Madam Speaker, is what I see happening regionally, and it's something that we have less control over, but we do have to engage with the telecom companies on the island and ensure that they understand that we are mindful of what is happening, and that's all the consolidation. It's inevitable with business. Companies are going to consolidate, they're going to merge, but we have to be careful because the end result of a lot of these mergers could take us back to a situation where we're dealing with a monopoly again. And that would be something completely out of our control and down to a matter of business decisions made by these companies. So we have to keep a close eye on it. I'm not saying that we need to implement legislation, anti-monopoly legislation, but we need to ensure that we do have the choice of providers and the variety of providers so that we don't put all of our eggs in one basket. So, Madam Speaker, I think most of the important points have been covered. I just want, again, thank the Minister for taking this forward and thank the member from Northside for bringing this issue up at this point in time. It is timely, and it is an issue that we can quickly put behind us because I think everyone in this Honorable House supports what the member has been asking the government to consider. I certainly support his motion, and I will be voting for it. And I doubt there's anyone else who will have any issue with what he has proposed. So with those few short words, Madam Speaker, I'd just like to thank you for this opportunity to contribute.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? Final call. Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I'll call on the mover, the honourable member from the District of Northside, if he wishes to reply to the motion.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first of all, let me thank the government and all members who spoke in support of the motion and the others for their tacit support. And I know hopefully they can vote yes. And Madam Speaker, it is good to hear that the government is doing something about this stuff. But I want to impress on the government the urgency in doing something. The consumer is really being treated badly, and the consumer can't do anything about it. I am aware of some of the stuff that the minister talked about that he expects to bring in January. But, Madam Speaker, if I recall correctly, I think it was 6-8 months ago, in going to the ICTA to complain on behalf of myself and my constituencies, the ICTA told me that they had submitted those same things to the government. And these kind of urgent matters, Madam Speaker, can't take 8, 9, 10 months to sort out. We need to put some priority. And I understand the government has many priorities and each minister has more work than he would care to have to do, but they voluntarily took the position. So if you got to stay till 12 o'clock at night, let's get it done. Because, Madam Speaker, what we don't want to happen is now that we finally have someone at the ICTA and some board members who are willing to take on these conglomerates and insist that they comply with the provisions of the law and insist that they must provide better services. We don't want to take 9, 10 months to respond to their request to do something and they become disinterested like the one they had before, who was there for ever and ever, and all of these problems existed then and nothing was done about it. Because many of these are young Caymanians who are happy, willing, able, and grasping the opportunity to contribute to improving the situation. And when we get those kind of Caymanians in those positions, which is far too rare in my opinion, we have to assist them by putting some top priority and time frames on getting these things done. Because, honestly speaking, anywhere else, any other business here, if I walk into a store and I pick up 10 candies and I only pay for 5, I'm prosecuted for stealing. So why aren't these companies prosecuted under the penal code if I'm paying for 10 megabytes and only getting 1? They're stealing my money. That's what we used to call it in the good old days, robbery. Madam Speaker, the one thing that I didn't hear the minister address, which I believe also has some urgency, is this false advertising. Both of these two providers claim they have fiber island wide. But when people like me go to them and say, listen, you have fiber now, I said, oh yeah, well, can I get a fiber line from your junction box by the playing field to my house, which is like 500 feet? Oh, no, we're not ready for that yet. Madam Speaker, the only thing I haven't done at my house to try to improve the internet and services, build a new house around the cables, because I've had the house completely rewired. I've insisted that the provider put up a new wire from my house to the junction box. And it's not no improvement. They say must, and I might not have the acronyms right, but we must have DSL line to get higher speeds, right? So I pay for a DSL line. A couple of months later, I have problems, phone not working. Because for some reason in my area, anytime it rains, that's it. It goes out. The house is waterproof. No water in my house. One technician who happened to be a very close friend of mine came out. And he said, here's what happened. You may have originally had a DSL line, but the first time it broke down, the technician went down, they needed 2 pairs of wires that were working connected. I can tell you don't have a DSL line now, but I'm paying for it every month. Madam Speaker, the only how these companies can bring in technicians into this country to displace Caymanians from work is if the government gives them work permits. The good old days, before work permit was the popular thing to do, cable and wireless came to this country. People my age were graduating from high school. We had the Oliver Hills, the Reggie Nixon, the Philip Hislops, straight out of high school, went in, done all the technical courses. You had people like Greg Anderson who went off and did all the other engineering training. Albert Anderson, all local people that were trained. Why? Because they couldn't get permits from Mr. Armand Parran. If Lime decides it is no longer going to buy Ericsson equipment, but they're going to bring in Ericsson to service their equipment and outsource it to them, and Lime lays off all of their Caymanian technicians because they have no longer a need for them, so they gives them their retirement package, promising them that Ericsson will hire them, but Ericsson comes in and gets all the permits that they want. The only entity in this country that can do anything about that is the government through directives to its boards. For some reason, this government is absolutely afraid to govern. Madam Speaker, I agree with the fourth elected member for Bordentown. We need to develop these technical courses and opportunities. But what's the point? We have Caymanians, qualified and experienced now, who can't get jobs because they get work permits for the positions. So if my cousin, who's been a technician with Lime for 15 years and has all of the qualifications, can't get a job, you really think it makes sense? I believe it makes sense for me to go and train to be a technician? We have to create heroes for our Caymanians, that they can see that Caymanians are succeeding in these fields. And the only entity that can do that is the government. So, Madam Speaker, I think the minister committed to have these regulations in place by the end of January, that ICT is asking for, administrative fines, etc. I'm humbly asking them to include in those administrative fines a serious fine for false advertising. Because, as the member for East End said, you go in outside driving and you get between two towers, signal gone. You get megabit upon breakers, you could make a phone call, save your life. We don't have no mountains here that are blocking these signals. What is the problem? Somehow the ICTA has to be given the authority. Mine, I believe, as the minister from Eastern says, that they have plenty of authority now, to tell these people, if you, on the basis on which you were granted a license, was that you were going to roll out these services for the whole island. They must produce a time frame to have these services available throughout the island. But we just accept it, and the consumers have to accept it, and the consumers have to endure it. They come to me, I complain to the ICTA, the ICTA say, we ask the government not doing nothing about it. Right? And, Madam Speaker, every time you get your bill, there's some other little charge. The only thing worse than the telephone companies are the banks. And the government will regulate them either. Because now if you want a copy of your bill, an item, a detailed copy of your bill, you got to pay for it. And as the fourth elected member about the tax, I got one day before yesterday. I got one day before I got one yesterday. I got one rated today that my bill will be due today. Please come pay it. They don't have no trouble. Now that text message comes in loud and clear. But if Ben for East End call me and try to talk to me for 10 minutes, phone gets disconnected. So, Madam Speaker, I hope that relief, and I accept the government's commitment because I can hold on to it because you know now I can submit the question when I leave here today for the next meeting of the LA for a report on how far we've gone at the next meeting. And that the consumers will get the benefit. So, Madam Speaker, I thank all members for their contribution.
The question is that be it therefore resolved that the government consider amending the ICTA law to make it an offense for a provider to contract with a customer for a specific internet speed and not provide the contracted speed, and that the penalties for such an offense to be a substantial fine and a refund to the customer of the price charged for the service. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. I believe the ayes have it. Motion 11, 2015, 2016 is accordingly passed. We'll now take our luncheon break and reconvene at 2:30 p.m.
Yep.